Who is most likely to fall victim to the disease of drug addiction? Can they be helped? Is there life after failure? Tom Kramer was at the top of the world working with Hollywood's best and brightest. The thought of him being homeless and near death would have seemed impossible. Tom's story is just one of thousands we at Chabad encounter every year. He joins us tonight. With us now is Donna Miller, who is director of the center that does
Chabad Residential Treatment Center, where Tom came through our beautiful doors.
Tom, your story is fascinating. You had enormous success. You directed an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, possibly the funniest show on television.
Well, thanks to Larry David. Yeah, that was since I went through Chabad, I had that opportunity to direct Curb. So,
give us a little history. You came from St. Louis to here.
I got a very early start writing and directing on a show called Fridays, which was like a Saturday Night Live on ABC. And I was 20 years old, writing and directing films every week, and it was a dream come true for anyone who wanted to be in television. I got introduced, unfortunately, to drugs at that time, and I guess I'm predisposed to being an addict. I just could not stop, and it became a battle. A few years later, I was washing used cars in St. Louis. Not long after that, trying to get away from drugs. I was living in my dad's basement, and the addiction and my depression over not being able to stop became so bad that I just couldn't go on anymore, and I put a rope around my neck, and I tied it to a rafter in the ceiling, and I jumped off a box. And fortunately,
why didn't you die?
I wasn't very good at tying nooses. The rope was too long, and I hit the floor. But that wasn't the bottom. For a lot of people, that might have been the bottom, and say you need to stop. I was battling depression as well, and I did go into a hospital for depression. They said I was an alcoholic. I've been in several treatment centers. I've had accidents where they didn't find me for 8 hours with both legs and arms broken, and it took me a year to learn how to walk again. That wasn't my bottom. I ended up homeless on the streets of LA, panhandling, living on a mattress I found in a dumpster, and that wasn't my bottom. And in between, I would get sober for periods of time and go on to great success. You know, I was head writer on 130 episodes of Candid Camera and directing all kinds of late night comedy and in between. But it was a
after living on the streets.
Yes, it was a roller coaster. And
what was the bottom?
Well, the bottom was I had been sober for a few years, thought I was doing well, and a doctor prescribed Vicodin. I relapsed again, and it just eventually slid into the same place it always ended up with, which was living in a place that I hadn't cleaned in years. It was basically a compost pile, and I did not want to live. It took me back to the time when I wanted to hang myself, and I did.
But with all your success, didn't your friends and the business know about this and try to help you?
They did, but usually when I was around people, I was sober and I was doing good. So I hit it pretty well. It's during the periods of unemployment, low self-esteem and self-worth, where I would just hide away and just.
And this was how long ago?
Well, it started in 1980.
I know, but the final down.
The final thing I got into Chabad 8 years ago. I was homeless.
What took you to Chabad?
I don't know how. Some friends of mine hooked me up with you.
Someone called me from shul and asked if I'd help this Catholic guy that needed some help.
Yeah, see, I wasn't even Jewish, and they said, would you live in Chabad? And my only experience with Chabad was watching the Chabad Telethon, the rabbis balancing the bottles, and I thought, if I have to learn how to balance a bottle on my head to get sober, I will.
It's come to that.
I would do it. You know, they never did teach me how to balance a bottle, but they taught me a lot of other things.
How did you view this patient? Do you call them patients?
We call them clients. How did I view Tom? It's been a while back. He was always a very nice person, and he was a serious person. And he fit right in with our philosophy, which is that nobody is doing drugs just because it's fun or they're having a party. They can say it, especially the young kids all think that, but we know that underlying there's pain and suffering and something's amiss. And he just took it like a sponge, everything that we had to offer, the spirituality, the clinical help,
what
the
does
fellowship.
Chabad do that others don't?
So that's like too big to answer on this short span of time, but I think that we really understand what's underlying the addictive process, like what components are missing, and we take a Hasidic approach to help a person to connect with God, to help connect with their inner self, to really build self-esteem, not from extrinsic things like success, but internal things.
A lot of respect. I think they treat, I actually call them clients,
Right.
the patients, whatever, but they treat you with respect, and there's therapy, and it was kind of like a family atmosphere.
You're sober now how long?
8 years this week.
When did you direct the Curb Your Enthusiasm?
That was about 3 years ago.
Tom, you've shared this personal journey to recovery. Here's a glimpse of a little something you directed after graduating from Chabad's Treatment Center. Watch.
Wow, thank you so very much.
And here's your sandwich. Can I get you something to drink?
You know what I would love? I'd love an Arnold Palmer.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Can I give you a drink order?
Sure.
I'll just have an iced tea.
An iced tea.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thanks
Arnold
again.
Palmer, of
Yes,
course.
thank you. Man, she's nice.
Yeah. Nice to people with hair. She's nice.
What are you talking about?
What am I talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Bald people get discriminated against constantly, and you just saw a perfect example of it.
Oh, yes, because you're bald.
Yeah. Ask any bald person. Ask. Go ahead.
How'd you like working for Larry David?
Larry David is the best, and when you do Curb Your Enthusiasm, the whole team, all the producers and writers, and the actors, the improv, it's so easy that, you know, you just try not to mess it up. You just facilitate.
Are you involved in the editing too?
A little bit, yes.
Are you confident that you are clearly on your way to no more falling off?
Yes, well, it's supposed to be one day at a time, but absolutely. It's the first time in my life, really, where I think it is for the rest of my life, although I just live it a day at a time.
Another Chabad success story.
I might add that Tom came on his wedding night to the Chabad Telethon how many years ago?
Yes, 2004.
Might look up in the archives to see him all dressed with his beautiful
Yeah.
bride. Another joy.
Congratulations.
My wife, Alicia, yes, it was a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.